Hello, brothers and sisters. Today we're going to reflect upon the walk of all time, the road to Emmaus. The Easter season offers us a spirituality of hope. If Jesus can undergo suffering and death and rise to new life, he can do the same thing in our life, right here, right now, and there are no exceptions. No matter what our existential reality is, we can experience God's grace and support as we struggle with our own sufferings. On this third Sunday of Easter, the gospel describes perhaps one of the most celebrated walks of all time, when Jesus accompanies the disciples on the road to Emmaus. As you remember, the disciples, they were forlorn. They were disillusioned. They had given up hope that Jesus was the long-awaited Messiah because he had been brutally murdered. In the midst of their darkness, at the low point of their lives, Jesus appeared to them on the road and reminded them what they had experienced when they had accompanied them on his public ministry was true. Previously, when they had returned to Jerusalem, they had heard incredible stories from the other disciples who had found new hope when Jesus appeared to them. But they weren't sure of those reports. Why? They still weren't convinced because they had not experienced the risen Christ for themselves. But then Jesus appears to the disciples on the road to Emmaus to reinforce the hard truth that it is through suffering that we come to new life. That's how they will experience the risen Christ. Now, this was the theme of a film, The Legend of Bagger Vance, which was directed by Robert Redford in 2001. The main character is a Ranulph Juno, and he's an everyman type figure, and he's played by a young Matt Damon. He is a heroic American, a golf champion, who was the victim of a grim injustice during the grim warfare of the trenches in World War I. He's a broken and disillusioned man, and he returns to his old home in Savannah. He's shattered and he's unable to see any hopeful possibilities for this life after his gruesome battlefield experiences, and he seems resigned to play out a life that's incapable of rising to new life. In this darkest moment, a mysterious Bagger Vance, played by Will Smith, joins him on what will become a journey of recovery, the golf tournament. Bagger Vance is a genial stranger, a modest caddy who doesn't impose his will on Ranulph, and he's the catalyst by which Juno's eyes are open in self-awareness and helps him to a new life by reawakening his love for his girlfriend, Adele, played by a Charlize Theron. When Juno rediscovers hope and embraces a new life, Bagger Vance disappears to accompany others on their Emmaus walk, just as Jesus must have done after the disciples recognized him. What Jesus did to the disciples on the road to Emmaus 2,000 years ago, he does to us as well in 2024. There's a familiar adage that goes that the darkest hour is just before dawn. In the darkest moment of Ranulph Juno's life, Bagger Vance appeared. Similarly, the disciples walking the road to Emmaus, Jesus appears, opening life to them in unimaginable ways. The life that was hidden in the darkness will burst forth in a radical new life. The darkness, death, and new life, resurrection, they go together. In order to experience the resurrected Christ, we need to die with Christ. The cross necessarily precedes resurrection. This is the mystery of our faith. We must die to our egoic, self-referential self in order to be transformed. Whatever old yeast, whatever old wineskin of corruption, that must be cast out if we are going to experience the risen Christ in our heart and soul. On Easter, we renew our baptismal vows. And what is it that we renounce? We let go of our attachment to the goods of the world, our addiction to wealth, status and prestige, dominative power, and unbridled hedonistic pleasure. More to it, we detach ourselves from the world of violence, prejudice, and indifference to the unknowing, the lowly, the vulnerable, the poor. Too often we harbor, abated by the social internet and cable news, feelings of anger, resentment, vengeance, retribution, selfishness, and disdain. Today's readings from Acts and Luke proclaim that Jesus has died and he is risen. To participate in his resurrected life, we need to die to all the wickedness within our own heart and in the world. We set our hearts higher, just as Randolph Juneau did with Bagger Vance, and just as the disciples did with Jesus on the road to Emmaus. So may the Blessed Virgin Mary help us to die to ourselves and to live the experience of the resurrected life. Amen.